I just kind of looked inward. I'm like, man, what am I doing? Is this crazy? Do I have the ability to actually pull something like this off?
Welcome to Friends of Build magazine. I'm your host, Ted Bainbridge. I've been traveling the world and working in publications for 30 years. In 2016, we launched our first issue of Build magazine, a publication dedicated to high-end home construction, renovation, and the innovative experts that make this possible. This podcast was created to have some fun and explore those who have taken on the challenge of building luxury homes in demanding locations. From navigating logistics in construction to excavating the earth, we want to learn more about these people and how their projects became cover-worthy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Good-looking guy on the other side of the screen is Keith Richardson. This is going to be such a blast. Arizona Fireplaces, iconic company that Keith's dad started in 1980, selling fireplaces in Arizona, which seems a little on the absurd side, but you want to be a disruptor. I didn't know being a disruptor in the 80s was anything other than punk rock. So this is going to be a cool conversation.
Absolutely. I
And
know
Keith,
fireplace is a unique thing in 110-degree weather. We're not
like,
the
no
smartest guys
kidding.
in the world for sure.
Yeah. Hard working though. So
Sure.
for everybody listening, this is, first of all, Keith and his family have become great friends, and they really are an incredible foundational family. So when Keith and I were talking last week about the story of what he's doing, what his brother's doing with the company, taking what the dad had built, which was a pretty phenomenal, I think you got 350 employees or something crazy like that. And the challenge is that to grow to the next level, most of the time I talk to people that have gone from rags to riches, and there's a different pressure set. I remember talking to David Kohler last year, and there's a different pressure set taking over for an icon and building to the next level, but you're definitely on the trajectory to do it. So I think this is going to be a fascinating conversation. So thanks for being part of it.
Thanks for having me.
I love your story last week about the you're opening up in Dallas, which we're going to see at the Hamilton deal on Monday. I think that'll be awesome for you guys to kind of start building that network. So your stress level about opening this facility, walk me through it. This is a great story.
Well, we've had a lot of expansion this past year. Yeah, to your point, Ted, the core Arizona Fireplaces, that's it's a small family ran business that my dad started, and we've branched off of that, kind of used that as a little bit of the engine to start a distribution company, and my brother starting a electric fireplace company. But it's important to my dad, who started Arizona Fireplaces, to keep Arizona Fireplaces to where it's very customer oriented, towards where we do our reputation here in the valley is extremely important, and that comes first and foremost. So we've expanded this past year into Sacramento on the distribution side, and then here in Dallas, where we have a distribution warehouse as well to kind of cater to that whole market, which is booming, and then a new facility in Dallas. And yeah, when you do a certain level of expansion, I'm 41 years old, and you get, sometimes you take on maybe too much. I don't know if I'm ready to admit that, but I'm getting pretty close. And so the level of stress is always there. There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah, so it's been a long time coming. There's a showroom that we've been building out for the last 7 months, and we finally have it completed. So it's been a very easy process, Ted. And when I say that, I'm being extremely sarcastic and facetious.
Okay, so I was watching a video or podcast, and this guy from Shark Tank, Robert Herjavec, he talked about he's a member of the Newport Beach Tennis Club, and Martina Navratilova is a member there. And there's a quote from her on one of the walls there that says, "Pressure is the privilege of success."
Yeah, and I love that quote, and I embrace that, because if we were just doing the same thing over and over every day, like, where's the fulfillment? Where's the purpose? Where's the enjoyment from that? And so on one hand, I'm like, I took on maybe too much this past year, but what a privilege to be in a position where I have the ability, and the drive to do so. So you're absolutely right, and he's absolutely right. It is a truly a privilege, and there's no better way of looking at it.
Well, hopefully that puts it in perspective because when you're in the pressure cooker, I don't know if we necessarily look at it as a privilege, but she's right.
Yeah, well, the memories, even when I was starting the distribution side, the struggles, all the pain of getting that company to where it's breaking even and making a little bit of money, like those struggles and that pain, like that's where I look back and that's my most fondest, my best memories. So even when you're in it, sometimes you don't realize that, man, that you're thinking this is brutal, this is very hard. But then the reality is that those are the memories that you're going to look back on. And that struggle is where you got all that fulfillment, where there's really enjoyment, even though it doesn't seem like it at the time. So, after when you get a consistent business where you're not growing, but if you're making a little bit of money, I mean, you got to be moving, you got to be shaking. That's what a lot of us, a lot of us enjoy and like. We don't like it when it's easy.
So you made a comment when we were talking last week about you and your brother Chris grew up sweeping the floors of the warehouse. And what are you going to leave for your kids? Because that Richardson work ethic, which your dad and your mom instilled in you guys, you're 41 years old. You weren't given anything other than an opportunity, right?
Yeah, that is true. And I will say my mom and dad, their work ethic is phenomenal, and they've instilled that in both my brother Chris and I. But yeah, we started. They don't want to give us anything, even from student loans and first vehicle, and even when my brother and I bought our first house together, my we didn't have any money for a down payment, so my dad's like, "Yeah, I'll give you money for a down payment, but you're gonna be charged 5% interest." I'm like, "Well, the bank, for the other, 80%, it's only 3.25." This is back in 2008. And he's like, "Hey, money's not cheap. You can't get it." So he charges more of an interest rate. Point being is he never gave us anything. And so, which is, of course, a wonderful opportunity, wonderful wisdom, and they've been so wonderful to us. And so now we kind of take that up and with our kids. I have an 11-year-old boy and 9-year-old boy, and so the challenge is how do we ingrain that kind of work ethic where they're not given things, and it's a real challenge. It's not like we have a whole lot to give anyways, but it's one of those things where how do we instill, or where you start on the forklift, sweeping the floor, the heavy labor, because that's an important part of the work ethic and understanding, like when you don't have anything, and then when you get a little bit of something, then that appreciation for that you had to work so hard is so much there. But the big picture, something that with my kids, to go back to that for a second, my wife and I have been talking a lot about that because that's really important to us. I think a successful life is exactly how is reflected in your kids, and so that's a huge priority. And my mom and dad have been a great role model for us as far as bringing up their children.
Well, and you mentioned what are my kids going to be able to do because we do have that core work ethic. There's going to be something you might not know what it is right now, but there's going to be something along the way. And one thing I really appreciate about you and your wife is the fact that you guys are in sync on decisions. And I think that's an important role because if you don't have the support at home or the conversation of, well, go talk to your mom, go talk to your dad, and then it pits the two of you against each other. You guys aren't like that at all. You guys are focused and you're clearly flying in the same pattern.
Yeah, my mom and dad, when we were growing up, they were each other came before my brother and I. And I never understood that till later. But my dad told me, he's like, your mother and I, we have to be a solid foundation and a team. And then because if we're unstable, then all of a sudden, then everything else becomes unstable. So my wife, Christina, who is so wonderful, I've been with her for about 20 years.
She's awesome too.
She's she is so sweet. She's such a wonderful wife, mother, just human being in general. But yeah, she comes first, I come first, the kids come second because we feel like the kids will be more, they will benefit from us being a rock solid team with how we discipline and all that good stuff. And we don't let the kids, my wife is very tough and I'm pretty tough
She's
too.
tough.
Yeah, they will never pin us against one another. And we're always in sync. Not that we agree on 100% of everything, but we're a good team. And I think we're doing a pretty good job on staying coordinated with raising the two kids.
No, 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 no. I mean, your wife is cute, but she is tough.
Yeah,
Like she's very clear on what she wants and expects. I like that.
yeah, well, she's very pretty. and also very tough. And she scares me. Sometimes when I do something and she gets after me, oh, hey, all of a sudden me and my two kids, we're in the doghouse. We don't like being in the doghouse. We don't like when mom gets mad.
How do you mentor your team? I mean, you've got a big operation you're running. And so obviously there are things that from an HR standpoint, I mean, you got 300 plus personalities that you're dealing with. Not that you deal with all of them, but how do you mentor them and through your show of leadership, they look to you and they go, "Well, Keith did it that way." And they're always I guarantee they're always picking your brain.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that come to mind when you say that. The communication, which I know gets said a lot, but communication is important. But open communication is something that I've really embraced. Where, hey, if you feel a certain way, then communicate that. Communicate that in a very respectful, kind way. But I think integrity is something that is one of our core values, and having high integrity and doing what is always right, even if it means that you're going to take it in the shorts financially.
Yeah.
You have to do what's right. You have to play the long game. I think a lot of people these days are like, hey, if they're going to lose money on a certain transaction, then they don't do it. Well, think about the long picture. And I'm pretty young and I'm planning on being in this business for a long time, hopefully where my kids could take over, and having those relationships and always doing what's right, I think is really permeated with our staff and given us, and you could take that many different ways with the customers and staff and mentoring. But kindness, high integrity doesn't mean that we're going to be, taken advantage of. But I think just some of those core values drives a pretty good culture, and gives them a little bit of a guiding compass on how to deal with certain situations, whether it's internally or externally.
So your dad is, I think he's 70.
Yes, just turned 70 actually 71 this past August.
Okay. All right. And he's still involved in the business.
He is still very much involved. I love working with him. Talk about a privilege to work with your dad, and I'm sure he would say the same thing about me. And he is very smart. He's sharp. I view him and I as a really solid team. If he were to do what my mom wants, which is him to go golfing and retire and travel much more, then it would definitely make my job a lot more difficult. I enjoy working with him every single day, but he's very active and still very much involved.
So you mentioned you see a long runway for yourself. I'm a firm believer that people as they get older, if they stay active in business or investments or something where their brain keeps going, it keeps them young and it kind of keeps them in the game and it gives them a little juice too, right? Like your
Yeah.
dad's got a ton of juice.
Yeah, well, he does, and he doesn't wanna go on vacations. I mean, of course he goes on vacations, but you put him on a beach for 5 days, he's gonna go nuts. And so, what comes to mind too is that even us, we went on, my mom and dad took my brother and his wife and my wife on a sailing trip many years ago in the British Virgin Islands. And man, after day 2, these guys are making us drinks, they're making us food. I'm like, I have to do something. I have to be productive. I can't be waited on like this. And
You didn't
because
go
it
to
makes
Epstein's Island, did you?
no, 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 no. It made our brain like numb. And so with my dad, he's like, hey, he's like, as long as you allow me to keep working, I'm gonna keep working. I go, well, Dad. I go, yeah, not only, it's a silly thing to say in general, but man, yeah, I hope, Mom, you gotta make sure you're nice to Mom so you can continue to work here. And I think for him, it does keep him sharp. I mean, it keeps him really sharp, keeps them a lot of purpose in what we're doing. There's a lot of growth, a lot of excitement behind it, and I think it's a really good thing for him just mentally and physically, and of course for me on helping with a lot of the pressures that we deal with during this expansion period.
So do you talk to your team or to whether it be your team, your family, your friends, do you talk to them about the journey of life as opposed to the finish line? So many people get focused on, and I want to talk about easy money, which there isn't such a thing, but the journey of life where I love Nike's slogan for probably 20 years ago, there is no finish line. Your dad is a perfect indicator of you keep doing what you love until you're physically finished. And I think that's a healthy way of approaching life.
Yeah, I think how we approach it is kind of surrounds the word happiness. You got to be happy, and sometimes it's not easy to be happy, and you got to work at it. But once you like, I want to be happy, and I tell my guys like, hey, life is short. We need to enjoy it. We need to enjoy what we do every single day. Enjoy our family, our friends, and be happy. And some people find happiness in different ways, but money and that, that's never been a core focus of my parents and my wife and I of driving happiness. I think happiness is so much more than just the money side of things.
So that leads me to easy money. People, whether it's lotteries or um, gambling, or they see a stock and they go, "Oh man, this one's going to go through the roof." I remember when I was just married, 25, 26, 27. This is back in 1988, 89. I took $10,000. I was making decent money, and I put it into the penny stocks in the Vancouver Stock Exchange, and I thought, "Oh man, this is going to be great if it goes up, 50%." I made 5 grand. I lost all the money within about 2 months. I had no idea, but I thought it was easy money, and yet
Yeah.
here I am 40 years later or 30 years later, and I go, there is no such thing as easy money. And anything easy is not worthwhile. And I think of you with your distribution center, and then I want to talk about the opening of your Dallas facility, which you got a great head of hair, but I know you've been pulling part of it out.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that easy money, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. In fact, the only thing we know is really, really hard money. So that's, like I said, we sell fireplaces in Phoenix. So we're not going to sit here and pretend we are the smartest guys in the world trying to sell fire and heat in 110-degree weather. But everything we do is hard, and honestly, that's the only way that we know. We kinda like it the hard way, and maybe one day we'll be smart enough to figure out how to make easy money because what we do is not easy.
I don't think there's anybody that would say anything worthwhile is easy because it's not. How do you
Yeah.
find passion in the daily grind of what you're doing? And how do you, while you're in the fire, and that's a bit of a pun, but while you're in the fire, you got to find some joy or else it's gonna toast you.
Yeah, so I played, college football and my brother and I both with my brother and I, and we're naturally competitive people and we like to win. So I think the passion, what really drives us is to win. And it could be just a small thing and getting a new customer or opening up a new warehouse, but those kind of putting W's up on the board and being successful, that is what we love and embrace. And if the money comes, then great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But as long as we're winning and making progress and building something, then I have a tremendous amount of passion in those things.
So part of the purpose that my purpose with these is because I get to talk to cool people like you and learn the stories from, like I said earlier, yours is a unique situation. I don't talk to very many people that have come in to a great situation. And then there's more stress to me in your position or David Kohler's in pushing that to the next level, which clearly you're doing. And Herb Kohler was an icon in the Industrial Revolution of America. And I look at Tim Cook, who's not family, but man, he took over for an icon. I mean, an absolute icon. And look at what he's done with Apple. Steve
Yeah.
Jobs was the guru, right? So there's a talent behind that, but there's also pressure because you don't want to screw up. Part of what I want to do is encourage the younger generation that you talk about failure. First of all, we learn way more from failure, and that's part of the American innovation. That's what makes America great,
Yeah.
is that you need to learn from your failure and move on, but don't dwell on it and don't get bummed out about it. How do you do that? And how do you instill that in your team to encourage them to keep trying?
Yeah, well, I think failure is very healthy. I think as long as you fail fast and you take controlled, measured risk. But I think the failure is something that builds a tremendous amount of character and drive, and you got to learn from mistakes. And to bring my dad back up, he's made a lot of mistakes, and he said, "Hey, don't make the same mistake as me. Let's learn from mine because you're going to make a ton on your own," which has been very true. To comment on just the journey of the company and just the younger generation with me, it is very difficult to keep up, like, on the distribution side, which was my baby, when we were just doing very minimal amount, it was a big learning curve for me, and at that point, like, I didn't have it all figured out, and now we're, 20 times larger. The distribution side is about twice the size of Arizona Fireplaces, and it's a juggernaut. I have to work really hard to keep up with the growth of the company. And so when someone says they have it all figured out, they don't, including myself. Like I am in here every single day trying to figure out how do I keep up and sustain this level of growth. And it's very challenging. So I think the headline there is, no one has it all figured out. We're learning something new every single day. We're making mistakes. We're failing every single day. And you got to keep marching, keep moving, keep getting up and trying to keep move forward. And you're going to get kicked down. I've been kicked down multiple times, but you got to have that fight in you and that resilience to keep marching, even if it feels like you're up against the world.
How do you I'm assuming you've got a leadership team because with 300 people, you would have to, right?
Yeah, so there's a AF Steel Fab, and there's a guy named Bill DeHaven that runs that. Our involvement is very minimal at best over there. So I think I'm responsible for about 160. And yeah, I
Okay.
have a great leadership team. They're all bought in with the vision, the mission, and have those same core values. But I think the leadership team was critical for me. Is as long as we share the core values, which I created, then it gets pretty easy. I mean, nothing's easy, but as long as they have the core
Especially in
values.
your world, you want hard work.
Oh, man, yeah, as long as they have the same core values and that gets, kinda ingrained in the staff, nothing's perfect, but that gives you the best likelihood of success in my opinion.
How do you give over the reins or because you're one person, you can't do everything, right? So you
Yeah.
have to trust that your team is executing on the mission. How do you get them focused constantly on the mission so that they can make decisions in the best interest of the distribution or Arizona Fireplace? How do you get them to stay within the bumpers so that they don't get the shiny object syndrome?
Well, I think as many years of working with me, and like I said, it's not that I'm perfect or have it all figured out, but there's certain ways that I like to do things with some high integrity. And I think over the years, they've seen that, they've noticed that, and they know that they need to operate in a similar manner. But also, for me is letting go of the vine and relinquishing some of those responsibilities. That was a challenge for me, but it's the only way you're gonna grow because there's uncertain things. I feel like no one could do it better than me, and I'm sure that, some of my management team feel the same way, and so letting go of that vine so I could take on some higher, more important targets, if you will, is something that you just have to do, and it's painful. Letting go, which you originally asked, is a very, a challenging thing, I think, for everyone.
How what Okay, so walk me through the process because I think every business owner gets to a certain level and then to get to the next level, you can't do it all yourself, but you got to trust your team.
Yeah, I think it's an evolution. Nothing it doesn't happen overnight. Like bringing someone in off the streets and putting them in charge, I think would be a big mistake for us. And but the other thing is like if you have a certain level of employee that is excited and wants to grow, then man, they got their hand up, say, "Hey, Keith, give me an opportunity. I could do this." And then yeah, then it all goes from there. But they've been here for a while. They've seen how we do things, and they have that aspiration to do more, and they want more, and they want to evolve their career. Those kind of people who want that, that's who is in my management and my leadership team. Those kind of guys who are just drivers and with a similar work ethic and very like-minded thinking as myself.
So that kind of talks a little bit about culture, right? The culture of your operation. Has there been situations, and share with me how you work through it, where the culture started to get a little bit off track and you had to rein it back in so that you all got flying back in the same position?
Yeah, so I think 4 years ago in Arizona Fireplaces, we had, experienced quite a bit of growth, which we were very fortunate to, but then we couldn't the product that we were putting out for the builders and the customers here in the valley, it wasn't up to our standard, and, during that growth phase, we brought in a lot of people, just rapidly, and the culture, it almost became more corporate, and which is not how we operate. We're a family company. We will always be a family company, and we're gonna fight like hell to keep that. But the culture, how I reeled that back in, I had to make a lot of very hard decisions. We had to exit several people, and we had to start rebuilding. And because the culture is more important than what I realized, 10, 15 years ago when I was much younger. But the culture is everything. The employees are everything, and you got to make sure that if they don't share that same culture, they're not going to treat the customers how you would treat them, and then you find yourself. out of, with no company, you're out of business with no customers and no employees.
So that's the pressure of taking over, right? Because now it's becoming your company, not your dad's. It's becoming yours, which I got to believe makes him intensely proud. I know he's super proud of you and Chris. So, how difficult was it to make those decisions and what was the process? Because I think a lot of business owners struggle with this.
Yeah, so on the 2 on Arizona Fireplaces, which was my dad's baby, when I took that over, I think it was 2016, that had some challenges, which I'll touch on. The distribution side, that was a company that I started, and it was me, and I hired 1 employee, and now I don't even know how many employees the distribution has, probably up to 90 or 80 or 90. That was a little bit more of an easy thing since I was there from the beginning building it out, but going into Arizona Fireplaces, which is a company that my dad's ran, the employees were always very loyal, to my dad. Of course, they had a high degree of confidence in me coming over because they saw what I did on the distribution side, but still the challenges of, a new leader, whether it's, the son of the founder and the owner or anyone else, a lot of people, they're like, well, there's a lot of uncertainty, and reservations, especially with some of the old guard. And of course, me being a younger guy, I want to change some things and kind of get us up to what the current date of how we should be operating. And of course, change is always met with resistance. And then they say, well, even changing our ERP system, which and our phone system, which was absolutely critical. I remember one particular person said, "Keith, what are you doing to us? This is gonna take us down." And, in hindsight, it was a good decision, a lot of pain. But yeah, I would say the second generation, which is exactly what it is for Arizona Fireplaces, there's a lot of challenges taking over. There's a lot of you have to earn the respect, which is not given. It's just there's the challenges. I mean, I could go on, and I'm thinking right now on all the challenges that I faced during that period of time, and I'm glad we're here now and not there. But yeah, it's very, very tough.
So the old guard, I mean, that's a normal experience. They're used to doing it one way, and I mean, I talk to people constantly. I truly believe you need to blow your company up every 5 years. You need a refresh. You gotta find and if you can't find something that's wrong with your company, you need to
Yeah.
find something wrong with your company. And I don't mean you, I just mean in general, because
Yeah.
you can't get complacent. Business will run over you.
Yeah, and if I were to do it again, I would you wanna create a certain level of stability. Any kind of leadership change, the first thing needs to be established stability, get the respect, not go crazy with the amount of change, and, with me, I created a tremendous amount of change because I feel like it was important and very timely, which created a lot more pressure for the whole company and including the culture. But yeah, I mean, you gotta shake things up. You gotta be always changing. It needs to be measured, of course. You can't overwhelm, the troops, if you will. But yeah, you gotta be pushing a stagnant company that's not growing, and in my opinion, is not gonna survive very long.
So you're opening up a operation in Texas. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about what went into the decision and why now was a good time.
Well, so there's the story with Texas is there's a couple guys there and they own the company and we're helping support prop them up because the Dallas market is a huge market. The people there are absolutely wonderful, and some of the fireplace suppliers there, they're just avoiding that market when it's growing. And so from our experience here in Phoenix, we're not perfect, but we've been somewhat of a successful fireplace company. So we have a lot of so these 2 guys, the owner is Brandon Walker and Chris Tuckness over there, and so these guys we're help propping them up to be, to hopefully become a very successful, called mini Arizona Fireplaces over there, even though it's called Texas Fireplace. And so it's been, it's and actually, I will say a new market, a new company is much more challenging than you would think. We've done everything so long here in Phoenix and Arizona, and we're still learning, still trying to get good. But to think that it's just easy to duplicate something in another state, that's certainly not the case. So we still have a long ways to go, but these guys that own that company, they're great. They're good human beings. They have high integrity and a high work ethic, so the probability of success is, extremely high.
Okay, so I think that Apple has a certain way that their entire team markets their product. And I'm taking national companies because everybody's aware of them. Or Verizon has a certain way of marketing their product. Or, Big Ass Fans or Hammerton, whoever. Why do you say that just because you've done it this way in Phoenix and you've been successful that it feels different in Dallas? Talk to me about that.
Well, there's the market is different. The products are different, similar in some cases. The builders, I think, just here in Arizona, I'm trying to articulate this as well as possible, but it's a little bit of a colder climate there. The fireplaces are more direct vent, not to bore you guys with a bunch of fireplace lingo,
Yeah.
and wood burning, like wood burning fireplaces in Texas is huge. On some of the business specifics, you need to have the Texans. They Texans want to buy from Texans, which is why Brandon and Chris Tuckness, born and raised, Chris Tuckness has a ranch. But the specifics of Dallas being different than Phoenix, I mean, gosh, there's a laundry list. Every market is different. Like going into Colorado and Utah, which obviously we're not there, but if we were to go into there, we'd have to learn a whole different way of doing business. Even going back to Dallas, the installation crews are different. In Phoenix, our installation crews are on staff employees. There, it's more, subbed out, and
Okay.
where the installation companies or the people typically don't work for the same company. So there's a lot of different nuances, and learning all of the nuances of that market has definitely been a learning curve.
So would you say that the fireplaces here are more for aesthetics, whereas there's functionality like heat to the ones in Texas or Colorado?
Exactly. I mean, here you want a little bit of heat, but you really want that ambiance because you're only going to be really using it in Phoenix in December, January, February. So you really want that big, beautiful flame, but you don't want that heat. If you're entertaining, it's just going to blow you out.
Yeah.
So you want that. Oh, here it's big open face, big flames. A lot of the heat goes up the chimney. You get some of the radiant heat versus some of the colder climates in Texas. You want a little bit more of that fireplace to be a heater to heat that home. In Phoenix, we don't want that.
Yeah, like, we haven't turned on our heat once this year. It was 67 in here today, but we've got 2 of your fireplaces, and I'm glad that we upgraded to the cannonballs because people comment on it constantly, and we don't need the heat in the house, but visually, it's just aesthetically, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and those cannonballs, they're gonna radiate. What Ted has is an open face fireplace to where you kind of put your hand in there, and you could touch the flame if you wanted to. Obviously, you don't want to recommend that, but it's
I
an
didn't know
open face
that, and I haven't
fireplace where
tried it.
yeah, where a lot of the heat goes up the chimney, but it's this big, a beautiful flame, and where the aesthetics are absolutely just beautiful. And of course, Ted has some cannonballs in there, which is a pretty cool look that all the designers love here, and I love them as well. It's a really cool, radical look versus logs and glass.
Okay, so I wanna get back to Texas because we're gonna see each other on Monday. So the learning curve, did you know that there was gonna be a learning curve? Was this a bit of a curveball?
Yes and no. These guys have been running their own company for a long time, and we're just propping them up a little bit. So they've been doing business. They understand that market, which is why they're the ones operating it and owning it and all that good stuff. But I think just getting it from, even getting the builders and establishing the relationships, because a lot of people in Texas, which I love, they're very loyal people, which is exactly how I am. And so to convince some of these builders to give us a shot, it's not as easy as some of the other markets where it's more price oriented. Obviously, you got to be able to deliver, you got to be able to install, you got to be able to do what you say. So I think part of that, and then it's just it's a startup. It's a startup company where there's a lot of from the IT to just all the little things that you don't really think about is tough. But this year is now that the showroom is officially open, this year we think it's going to be really exciting, really good. And the other thing that Dallas, specifically why we think we have a really good shot at being really successful, is the showroom. There's not a lot of big fireplace showrooms in the Dallas market that show all the new cutting edge fireplaces. One of the things that we really tout ourselves is new technology, new cutting edge stuff that the designers are wanting, that these fireplace manufacturers are coming out with. We are putting those in, and it costs us a lot of money to rip these fireplaces out and put the new ones in, but we do it every single year. And so as a result of that, we have the most updated, cutting edge, current fireplace showroom in all of Dallas.
So is your plan, are you thinking that you're gonna go to places like Park City, which are just phenomenal markets. Right now, they're going crazy. Colorado's obviously strong. Austin's strong. Are you thinking that this might be a model for you guys in the future?
No, I think the distribution side, Dallas was a very unique opportunity, but no, in all the other markets, we do a really good job. There's a lot of good players in those markets, but yeah, we have no intention of going anywhere else other than where we're currently at right.
So other than your distribution, I mean, that's good. It's kinda like you're working out. It's like you're pushing new muscles and doing this thing.
Yeah, well, in the reality, we still have the Sacramento warehouse that we just opened up, and we took on a lot last year, and we opened it, and but we gotta get good. It's one thing is open up a warehouse, but if you're gonna day one, you're gonna be perfect. I mean, you're lying to yourself, and so there's a lot of stuff that we have to. Maybe one day there'll be some, maybe some distribution, some other expansion warehouses, but we really need to get our stuff kind of dialed in and make sure that we are serving our customers at a very, very high level. We're doing a pretty good job now, but there's a tremendous room for improvement. So we want to work on, kind of the blocking and tackling, and take this year to really, stabilize and then see where, 2027 takes us.
So I'm listening to you and I think about who are your mentors? Like, who do you look to? I'm thinking distribution. I look at what Amazon has done, and I'm just absolutely blown away with their distribution model and the fact that now they got trucks all over the place. And it started out as a book club, 30 years ago or whenever Jeff Bezos started it. Do you ever look at those guys and go and try and pick one idea of what they're doing? Not that you're delivering packages, but
I don't, because I feel like they're just in another stratosphere, and I'm just some
okay.
simple fireplace guy. But like what I've realized is like, you get an idea in your brain, like, the Dallas warehouse or the Sacramento warehouse, and like, I wonder if I could pull that off. I wonder if I could actually do that. And then you go down this road and you're doing it. You're not sure if it's going to work. You're not sure if it's going to be successful, but then you keep fighting and fighting to make it successful. And then all of a sudden you turn around and like, oh wow, that actually worked. I mean, the Sacramento thing is one of the funniest things for me, is because I remember flying up there and I remember landing, and I haven't been to Sacramento ever. And I'm landing on the plane. I got the realtor that's gonna, we're looking for warehouses. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? Opening up a
Yeah, why
warehouse in
Sacramento?
Sacramento. And and I'm not gonna say there was doubts, but on one hand, I just kind of looked inward. I'm like, man, what am I doing? Is this crazy? Do I have the ability to actually pull something like this off? You start maybe questioning yourself, is probably what it was. And then, yeah, then you just, you work really hard and hope that it works, or at least force it to work one way or the other. So I don't know. I think that's the mentors I would say are definitely my dad and my brother. The three of us were a really good sounding board, and so I think there's a lot of strength that comes with that versus an individual owner that's kind of in in a little bit of a silo. Like when I get a crazy idea, or my brother gets a crazy idea, or my dad gets a crazy idea, we all talk about it, and then they say, hey, yeah, I think that's a good one, or hey, no, I think that's a pretty dumb idea. Wouldn't recommend doing that. So I think a lot of our mentoring is one another, and of course, my dad being the
Why Sacramento? Like, of all the places.
Sacramento. So I looked at Reno and Sacramento made most sense logistically. And
Okay.
there's a lot of fireplaces that are sold up there, and a couple of the distributors some good distributors up there, but I think it's a little bit of an underserved market to all the local dealers. The dealers have really embraced us thus far, but yeah, there's it's a little bit complicated. There's some brands that wanted to turn over California to us, and for them to do so, we needed some Northern California hub or warehouse. Getting Southern California, Phoenix is a great distribution point for Southern California. Once you get north of Bakersfield, it gets very challenging. It gets very costly freight wise, and you really need a place up in whether it's Reno, Sacramento, or right on that I-5 corridor, which is where we're currently at up there.
I just would have thought Reno, because there's a lot of warehouses there for tax reasons, that California is obviously a huge market.
Yeah, and I looked at Reno, and my wife's is from Reno, and so I was very partial to Reno, but what I realized that everything that went into Reno typically went through Sacramento. So everything going into Reno and out of Reno goes through Sacramento, and so in our world, talk about Jeff Bezos and Amazon, like speed is everything. And that one day, knowing that the core of the business would be up in Northern California, I was nervous that that would add another day to our logistic, just the timing of shipments. And so that's why we ended up landing in Sacramento in California versus Reno.
Yeah, I am just blown away with the Amazon model, just from a pure logistics. Those guys, they have been disruptors.
Yeah, and they've pushed all of us little guys to be better. And so on one hand, I'm very grateful and thankful, that I mean, we used to ship yeah, okay, here's an order, we'll ship that in a week. Well, they changed that really quick. You have to ship out that same day or at the very max 24 hours. So I think on one hand, Amazon's a juggernaut, but on one hand, I think they've made a lot of us suppliers a whole lot better and more efficient because we had to be to compete.
All right, so I got two more questions as we're wrapping up here. And thanks for taking the time. You know how much I love talking to you, and I'm excited to see you in Dallas.
Yeah, me too.
Talk to me about um, fear or intimidation or competition, and how that's a healthy thing, not a I mean, some people could look at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive. And your point about Amazon, not that they're competition, but we can all look at other companies and go, hey, we can do a better job.
Competition, I think, is the biggest motivator that for me, my brother, our sales team, our staff. So the better the competition, the more fun it becomes because I will say, and I want to make sure we're a humble family, but when it comes to competition, we love it. We embrace it. We want more of it. We do not like to lose. We will not lose. We'll fight like hell not to lose. So when you talk about competition, I mean, it gets me excited and it makes us all better. And it makes us want to get up in the morning and go to war and fight. Maybe it's a little bit of the athletic sports upbringing, but there's always someone trying to attack you. And so, yeah, either be attacked or be the attacker or use that as a motivation. There's one thing that we always say. It's always good to have a perceived enemy, and I love it because it motivates me. I use that to motivate my sales guys. And if you surround yourself with a bunch of just killers on the sales team, then yeah, they're gonna take that and like, yeah, okay, let's go. Let's saddle up. Let's go to war. The probability of us losing, and like I said, we're very humble people, but the probability of us losing with some of the sales team that I have, specifically on the distribution side, is slim to none at best.
I was talking to a woman who ran a roofing company, 1,100 employees, and then she got into private equity and they started acquiring these companies. And Keith, their whole sales team of a couple of hundred kids were college wrestlers, college graduate wrestlers. And to your point, because college athletes are competitive and they're used to losing, they're used to fighting. They don't expect things to come easy. If somebody said no to them, they could care less. They know that this is all part of the process. And I think the younger generation needs to understand no is a awesome word. Without no, you get nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say one just comment about wrestlers. My brother was a wrestler, and one thing I've learned is you never mess with the wrestler. Those guys are tough. But
He's
yeah,
bigger than you.
he is bigger. He is bigger. I don't know if this wasn't live, I might say that or being recorded, I might say that he's tougher, but I'm not going to say that.
All right. Well, don't let them listen to this. Okay, last question. Where do you see well, no, I got two questions. The American dream, you guys are living it. You've lived it your whole life. What does it mean to you?
I think it's a very fulfilled life with happiness. And I think the business gives us a lot of purpose, gives us a way to live our life. I'm not going to say comfortably because nothing's comfortable, but I think the family is everything to all of us. We're just very fortunate to be in the position. I'm very fortunate that my dad made all the sacrifices that he made when he was younger. So I think what it means to me is, yeah, is just happiness, family, love, and all that stuff. But as far as like the business side of it specifically, um, it's a lot of fulfillment and it gives us purpose.
5 years from now, where do you see yourself? Because I know you set goals.
Well, it's gonna look 5 years back than here and then where we're at. Because sometimes my brother is the big planner. I'm more of a 3 to 5. A lot of guys try to get us to look out 10. It's just too far. 5 years from now, I think we'll be much better company, hopefully a much bigger company. We'll probably have some additional warehouses, and yeah, I think we'll be a little bit of a bigger size company. But I don't think it's going to change dramatically in the next 5 years outside of just growth and expansion. I think the brands that we currently have right now are some of the best brands in the country. So I don't foresee us bringing on many new brands and lines, but we're moving into a 100,000 square foot distribution facility in 3 weeks that we just built. We've built a few buildings in the last 5 years, and so who knows? I mean, it's hard. It's a hard answer. It's a hard question to answer, Ted. But I think we'll be bigger and better for sure. I think because I'll make sure of that, and that's what the goal is.
Well, okay, so I'll be excited to talk to you. Maybe we'll redo this in a couple of years because you're going to get it so that it's nice and smooth, and then you're going to disrupt it with something else that we don't know what it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think right now, I think I'm in the focus of stabilization. We've the last couple years of going back 3 years ago. If you were to say, "Well, you're going to open up a warehouse in Sacramento," like, no, that's crazy. I wouldn't do something like that. That's just wild. So I think in 3 years' time, it will be interesting to see where we're at compared to where we're at today, and all the crazy stuff that we're doing then after we stabilize but yeah, we don't let grass grow under our feet. We like to move, we like to change, we like to disrupt.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you on Monday. When are you flying in?
I fly in on Monday that day, and I'm out the next day. I don't like being away from my wife too long, Ted. I'm a little bit of a baby when it comes to being away from her, but yeah, I'll be in Monday
Understandable.
early afternoon, and then yeah, we'll coordinate.
Okay, that sounds great. Hey, thanks for taking the time. Love your story. Obviously, I love your family, but like I've said a couple of times, it's a treat for me to talk to somebody who's taken something super successful and notched it up. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, it's been a fun adventure, and kindness and being happy has brought us a long ways. So, but yeah, thank you.
All right. I'll see you Monday. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ted. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. You can find everything discussed in this episode and more in our show notes below. I'm Ted Bainbridge, and you've been listening to Friends of Build Magazine podcast.